This is going to be a hands-on session. So for yourselves on the training today, and for those people maybe reviewing this, you're going to be able to go into your courses, and I'm going to be touring you around the areas of Canvas that we want to make sure that people are aware of when you're kind of working with Canvas on a day-to-day basis in terms of teaching and creating course material. So this is the first of two parts. You're going to have your second training session, I think later today with Alicia. So in the first half, we're going to be, it's kind of a gentle introduction. So just to make sure that you guys know how to navigate Canvas and obviously get to the areas that you need to, how you can configure things like the profile, personal settings, make sure that Canvas gets in touch with you when you need it to. And I will also, and I'm conscious if you might have already played around with Canvas, you'll be aware of these things, but things like the help and the resources that are available to you in the community, these are good places to go if you have questions about Canvas. I'll also talk a little bit about conversations in the inbox, the way that you can message students and they can respond to you, and using things like the calendar for planning your courses. So really just basically structuring the timing of things and seeing how things work in terms of availability and when things are going to be due for your students. I'll be starting out with the basics of course content and the structure. So using what we refer to as modules. So those could be the topics or the areas of teaching that you want your class to consist of, or your course to consist of. And introducing the rich content editor. That's the main creation tool within Canvas that allows you to build things like pages for students to interact with or to view. But it's also something that comes across, or it's available throughout Canvas in terms of when you're creating activities and assignments, discussions, and quizzes. So it's one of the main things that we want to make sure that you guys are familiar with. I will be finishing up with a little bit of configuration of the course. So these are things that you as a teacher or an instructor can change the behavior of the course and make sure that it's suited to your students' needs, and also give you an insight into how you can kind of test and prepare your courses. So I will give you guys an opportunity to kind of practice some of the settings, but I'm also happy to kind of adjust this to make sure that we cover everything that you need. And if you're happy with things that we're looking at, I will give you, I'll move on quickly. And for those people maybe reviewing the video, obviously they can pause it and allow themselves time if they need to. Sound good?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. So it does sound like you guys have already been using Canvas a little bit, but again, just want to make sure that you're aware of really the fundamentals, hence the name of the session. So starting out, when you log into Canvas, you'll see something very similar to this. This is the dashboard, and it's going to show you all of the courses that you are enrolled in. Now, whether you are a student or a teacher, the relationship that you have with a course is determined by your enrollment. So you can be a user in Canvas, and you could be a student on one course, and you could be a teacher in another course. So that sort of thing is handled at the administrative level, but obviously you can create a link from a teacher logging into Canvas and their power within that course that they're enrolled on. So I'm enrolled as a teacher on all of these courses, and you'll notice that on the right hand side I have my to-do list. So this is going to be for every user. They'll always have a to-do list, and if they're a teacher, they'll have items that they need to grade, and if they're a student, they'll have items that they need to hand in. In the center of the screen, we also have obviously the course tiles, or the cards that you can use to jump straight into a course, and these will have notifications on them indicating where something has been updated. So for example, new items have been added or discussions are going on. And then on the left-hand side, the universal navigation. So I can jump into areas such as the account or my list of courses. And many of these, as you can see, have got a pop out here, including things like the help section, which I'll obviously be coming back to. But that navigation on the left-hand side is almost on every screen that you're looking at in Canvas, you'll see that. So if you ever get lost or disorientated, you can always go back there. And the option at the top will take you back to the dashboard. So it's best to think about Canvas as having three parts in every screen. You'll have navigation on the left-hand side, as we do here with our menus. then the contents that we're looking at, in this case, the card tiles, and then extra items on the right-hand side. So you may get options to configure or update things, and you also have, as we do here, this to-do list as well. Now, because I am personally quite geeky, I like to recommend that other people do the same thing that I do when I start with a new piece of software and check that it's behaving how you want it to. And to do that, I would say before we go into any courses, you take a look at your account. Now, the account is obviously the way that Canvas presents the user to other people and changes the way that it behaves. So starting out with the profile, you'll be able to update your details so that other users, whether they're students or teachers, can see your details here. So if you have enabled it, you'll be able to also upload a profile picture or an avatar. And on the right-hand side, we have this pencil button to edit the profile. So you can change this to include your name, your title, and your biography. Now, if there are other options that you wanted to include in here, so for example, a website that outside of Canvas that you want students or other users to access, you can include that as well. Now, there are a couple of registered services that can be added, again, if you've had them enabled. And I'm speaking to you guys on this training today as possible admin or administrators of Canvas. But these are the things that you can turn on and off for users. So the list of services you may have access to might be different to mine. But those are the ways that you can bring other services into Canvas. So those are actually handled via the Settings tab. And so again, we've got that navigation on the left-hand side, contents in the middle, and then extra options again on the right here. So underneath my settings, this is obviously how my profile has been created in Canvas. And in the center here, we have the registered services. So that list may vary for yourselves, but these are things that you can add if you want to have links to them included in things like your profile. So if I wanted my students or other users to know what my Skype details were, I could include them here. Now, obviously that's optional, but as an administrator, you can also turn those off, or they can be turned off and on, depending on what you would like people to have access to. Again, you have the edit settings option on the right-hand side where you see that pencil. So you can update your details if you want to. Those, however, can be restricted if administrators have disabled that option. But on the right-hand side, you also have the ways to contact. And this is important to understand that only Canvas and administrators of Canvas can see this information. So when an email address or a telephone number is put in there, it's only for Canvas's information. It's not something that other users, aside from administrators, can see. So it's the way that if you want to receive an update or a notification about something in Canvas, this is the way that Canvas will contact you. So you can add to that if you wanted to have maybe a secondary email address or another contact method. So you can receive SMS messages. And you'll also, if you do log into Canvas using the app, you will have a push notification here as well. So that will be for things like the Android and iOS devices as well, or using the Canvas app on those devices. So you can add those methods, and any user can add additional methods if they need to. It's worth noting on the right here as well that if you are a student, you'll be able to retrieve any submissions that you've submitted as Canvas. It's submitted into Canvas, so you can download a zip file with all of your details there. I'm conscious I'm working through these things. I'm more than happy to take questions as we go, so do jump in if you want to know anything, or anything else. But I will continue if there's nothing else for now.
That's good.
Cool. Okay, we're going to start with a little bit of content, kind of related talk, and we're going to just look at the files that are available here. Now, if you are managing courses in Canvas, you are normally enrolled as a teacher, and you can access the files for a specific course from that course, and we'll go into that later on. But so you're aware of it, you do have this overall file management view of everything that you've uploaded into Canvas. So if you're maybe starting out with building your new courses and you just want to kind of get everything into your into Canvas, you may want to upload all of those files, and you can just do that from here into each one of the courses that you're working with. So I'm going to be messing around with my Photography 101 course. It's just an example one that's got some documents and materials in. But you can see that for every course that I'm enrolled in, I have a folder here, and I'll also have access to the to any groups that I might have been enrolled on as well. So, for example, my humanities group is something that's been created, or the all staff one. Now, the courses, however, so my Photography 101, American History, Introduction to Geology, each one of those will have its own reserved file storage space. So depending on what, again, as an administrator you've set up, you can configure the amount of file storage that is available to each course. You can also have a list of files that are only visible to yourself underneath My Files. Now I can go into Photography 101, and from here I can very easily upload items using the dialog on the right hand side. So if I wanted to bring in, let's go for this PDF that I've got, and see if I've got any. There we go. And so my syllabus is now part of that course. Now, one thing to understand about Canvas is that you have a basic on-off switch for items, and that's referred to as publishing. So if you have something that's published, it's visible to students who are enrolled on it. If something's unpublished, it's not visible. Now, this can be done at the course level. It can also be done at several levels inside of a course. So you don't have to just make everything available to students at the same time. And you actually have some options around the way that files are accessible to students. So for example, when you upload a file, by default, it will be published. Now that doesn't mean that students can always see it, because you can actually hide the option for all files in the course to be hidden from students. You can still choose when they have access to it. You can still actually include them in pages and include them as part of the course, but they can't go through the folders that their files are stored in, because you can simply hide those and make sure that they can't see them. But you can keep all of your material organized if it relates to that course. So for this file that's been uploaded, at the moment it's published, but I could, if I click on it, I have a couple of options. For example, unpublishing the file doesn't remove it from Canvas, it just means that students wouldn't be able to see it in this list. And I can also restrict access, and that can be done so that if it's only included with a link, it means that, or it's only visible with the link, so you can't see it in the folder list, but the students would be able to access it if you specifically share the address for it, or the location of it. And you can also schedule availability as well, so you can make it available from a certain date and time to another if you want to restrict it in any way. I'll just update that. It's now only hidden. It's now hidden and only available if a student knows exactly where to go. So I would need to include that as part of a page or a part of Canvas elsewhere, or include a link to it. So it just means that they won't be able to see it in that files list. Now, when you're uploading material to Canvas, you can also include things like an entire folder. You can add new folders of your own. If you want to upload a zip file, Canvas will automatically expand that material if you've got it stored up in an archive, and it will include the folders if there are any there as well. So from here, you can manage your files across all of your courses and also move them from one to another if you need to. Okay, before I go on to some of the other areas of the account, actually I will just jump back a bit. Sorry to move around, but I was going to go to show you the notifications as well, and then we'll take a couple of minutes just to give you guys a chance to play with some of these tools. But the notifications, when we were talking about the email addresses and telephone numbers that you can have you can include in Canvas, you will have an option for every single contact method you include in Canvas listed here. So if you've only got one email address, you may only have one column. Because I've got a couple of addresses, I've got a column for each one. And these are going to be notifications that are sent by Canvas for each one of these events or activities. So, for example, if an assignment date changes, if files are uploaded, discussions might have been updated. Now, at the moment, some of this may not be familiar to you guys if you've not used that particular tool or if you've not had an update on that course. So it's important to remember that if you find yourself, after you've been using Canvas for a little while, you may want to come back here to establish or change the frequency of these notifications. And any user can do this. It's very simple to turn on and off the frequency or to adjust the frequency of these messages. So you have 4 options for each one of these. So we have an immediate notification with that tick. You can have a daily summary, a weekly summary, or we can turn off the option altogether. So notifications won't get sent to that address for that particular activity or event. Now, you may not need to, you may not find yourself receiving too many notifications initially, but as a teacher, sometimes it's not really going to be necessary for you to receive a message from Canvas telling you that you've just updated an assignment because you were the one who did it. If you were, for example, a student, that is going to be quite relevant. So you would want to adjust them accordingly. So, as I say, you can turn these on and off for each one of these, depending on how often you want to be notified. So, I'm going to, as I say, just give you guys a couple of minutes to play around with some of these tools, unless you do want to move on. For example, if you wanted to upload some files or take a look at your notification settings. How are you guys doing?
Ja. Ja, jag har det.
Du har det där. Jag kan inte
I actually do it at the same time when I have my own account here.
Fine,
So
okay.
I'm in my
You're
account.
kind of following along.
Yeah.
Fine.
So it's okay for me.
Yeah, that's
Cool. Okay, no, that's fine. Again, more time for you guys to kind of work through these things and play around with them later. Okay. In that case, I'm going to kind of just take a little bit of a detour before we get to things like the communication inbox and the calendar. I'm going to just make people, I'd like to make people aware of the help options that are available. Now, when you obviously you're not necessarily going to remember every single word that is said in a training session, and that's fine. I don't take that personally. The reason that I always feel very comfortable leaving people with this kind of awareness is that the Canvas guides are incredibly good. I say that as somebody who's used a lot of different bits of software. You may have already started looking at them yourselves, but again, we like to make sure that all teaching staff especially are aware of everything that they have access to. So underneath the help section, you can jump straight to the Canvas guides. These are available to everyone. You don't need to be logged in, although we do recommend that people take a look within the Canvas community. And just as an example, underneath the instructor guide, we do have a big search option here, obviously. But if I go to the instructor guide, if I scroll down, and if I was, for example, looking at, let's go for profile and user settings. So we were just taking a look at those. And if I wanted to add contact methods, let's say, or set my notification preferences, a very straightforward feature within Canvas. But you'll notice that, like with every other guide in Canvas, this has got lots of text to explain what's happening, but also plenty of pictures and also explanations of each feature, as well as links out to the other areas of Canvas if there's a relevant option or tool. So don't forget about the guides. They are incredibly useful, as I say. Now, Other resources you'll have access to include things like, well, the other areas of the community, but also you can, from here, report a problem. So if you have got an issue, if something is broken in Canvas or if it's misbehaving, you can raise a ticket. And again, actually, depending on, do you know what support package you guys have? I'm sorry, I haven't.
We have the basic support.
Okay, that's so. Initially, when a ticket is raised by a user, whether it's a teacher or a student.
Sorry, just a minute. My partner was lost.
Okay.
She's actually not lost in the video screen, but your screen is. Instructor guide, dashboard.
Det var den Google Mail.
Yes, everything is okay.
Good stuff. So yeah, if you do have a problem with Canvas and you need some help, you can raise a ticket. Now, initially, that will go to the administrators of Canvas, which may be you guys. Now, if it turns out that you're not able to fix the problem for the person, then you can escalate it to our support team, and that's where we'll be able to help out and answer any questions that you guys might have. So, do recommend that you, if you have got a question, as I say, you can report that here, or if you have a problem. But don't forget that you have got those guides. There's a lot of really useful resources in the community as well. So I'd just like to give a little bit of a shout out to it because it does help. And I go in there a lot myself just to maybe refresh my memory or see how people are using Canvas in some cases as well.
Yeah, they're really good instructions there. So I tried it. So yeah, I liked it a lot.
That's generally the experience I have, is that if I talk about it and somebody says, oh yeah, I've taken a look, it's like, yeah, they really are good. So I'm glad to hear you've already started exploring them. Now, just a quick introduction to the inbox. This is the conversations tool that you have in Canvas, and while it's not necessarily going to replace your email system that you might already use, it is a good way of conducting conversations with either an individual student or an entire class if you need to. So the inbox itself is organized by courses, so you can filter to show which particular course you're looking at. So maybe I just want to look at my photography course, and sadly I've not heard anything from anyone there, but I could compose a new message, and that will get sent to an entire course if I want to. So for example, if I wanted to communicate with my Photography 101 students, I could search for or start typing a person's name, Mr. Bill Blend, for example. Or if I wanted to send something to all students, I can use this address book, and I can send that to all students, all teachers, observers, or everyone on the course. So it depends on the different roles that I might have. So maybe a field trip reminder. A trip coming up next week. And I can include attachments and send video from here as well. Now, as I say, this isn't going to necessarily replace email at your institution, but it is a useful way of kind of sending a message only to the people in a class. And it's also going to be the main tool that you can use to kind of respond back to things like feedback and comments that you might receive from students if they're handing in their assignments. Now, the next area we're going to look at is the calendar, and we'll spend a bit more time on this because this is, as I say, quite a useful tool that you can use. The calendar will show all of the items on a course that has a date associated with it. So the layout here at the moment, I've got quite a few courses showing. So they've all got different color codes, of course, because I can choose which items are available here. And if I've got, for example, an assignment which has a due date, or I have an event on the course calendar, those are the sorts of things that are going to be showing. Now, I don't want to be looking at, I've got too much on here at the moment. I want to just focus on my, say, one of the courses. So I can turn calendars over here on the right-hand side off and on using these checkboxes. So similar to something like Google Calendar or Outlook, if you have multiple calendars there. If I wanted to add more, I could just turn this on. You'll see that I've now got that green for the business telecommunications, but I'm going to hide these by turning them off. And I've only got my photography ones. And actually, you know what? I'm just going to focus on Photography 101. So these are all the courses that I'm enrolled in. And it'd be from here. If I wanted to add something to the course, I can click on a date. So maybe next Friday, I could create an event, an assignment, or if you have the feature option enabled, I could create an appointment group from here. Now, my event is going to be associated with this calendar at the bottom. Now, I could add it to my own personal calendar, which has my name, or I can add it to Photography 101. Now, the reason that I can only add it to that particular course is because the list of courses that you can interact with is restricted depending on what calendars you have enabled on the right-hand side. So at the moment, the only ones I'm showing are my personal calendar, the Simon Lee calendar, and Photography 101. If I turned on Photography 202 and then clicked on that day, I could actually add it to the other calendar as well. So if you want to add something to a course, you need to just make sure that it's enabled on the right-hand side. So an event could be something like, well, that field trip I was talking about. And I might change the, where are we on the April 21st? Let's move it through to 28th. And say it's going to be from 10 until 3 in the afternoon. And go for the Science Museum. If I spell it properly, it helps. Now, when you create an event on a course, it will be visible to the students immediately. It's something that's added to the course if it's been published. So by publishing a course, it's, as I say, going to be visible to students, and they'll be able to see these event items. I could go into more detail using the options, but I'm going to actually just submit this and add it. And that field trip I added here, oh, that's my one from last week, my Photography 101 to the Science Museum. I could actually adjust that by moving it around, and that will be showing up in my students' calendars as well. So actually, let's leave that on the 28th. And I can also use the calendar for planning out the contents of my course. So if I wanted to, for example, maybe think about when assignments or pieces of work are going to be due, I can use the calendar to plan those. So starting on the 27th, my assignment, if I change over to this tab, I could create maybe something like an essay for week 1 of my course. Now, maybe I don't really know what that essay is going to be or what that assignment is going to be. So I might want to just use it as a placeholder right now. And so I've got a due date. Maybe I know it's going to be due at, say, 6 o'clock in the evening. But it's going onto my Photography 101 course, and I'm just going to treat it as a regular assignment. So assignment groups are a way of categorizing the different areas of Canvas. So different types of assignment, or you can really call them whatever you want, and then you can use these assignment groups as a way of weighting the value of the grades for that particular piece of work or those pieces of work. Now the publish option at the bottom here, this big switch that turns it into a green checkbox, that is something you can publish an assignment from here. However, one thing to bear in mind is that if your students see this, they're just going to see essay for week 1, and they're not really going to have much information to go on. They will have a due date as well, so they'll know when it's going to be handed in, but that may not be enough for them to really work with. You want to provide a bit more detail. So I would suggest that if you're using the calendar for this, you're just really using it, as I say, as a kind of a planning tool. So again, if you want to, you guys might already be playing around with this yourselves, but I can add that essay to week 1, and it's now part of the course, but students can't yet see it. It's not yet been published. Now maybe I realized that I've actually added this to the wrong week. I need to go ahead into May. I can click and drag this assignment up to the 5th, so I can use this mini calendar, add it up to the 5th. If I go there now, here we go, I've got my essay for week 1. Maybe I could create another assignment, could be presentation for week 3. So again, not much detail, but that's okay, because I'm gonna go into these, or I would update these in a bit more detail by when I want to publish them to the students and make sure that they're aware of them. But for now, it's just a really nice way of seeing what's available, what's going to be happening on the course without the students being able to see it. And then I can also obviously turn on the other courses that I might have, so I can see when assignments that I might be working on in other courses are going to be due. So I can kind of plan my schedule around that. And the possibly one of the most important features of Canvas is that you can also change the color of your course scheme here. So if I wanted to change that photography one to maybe a nicer hot pink, I'm not sure if that's the same as the other one. Yeah, it is. I need it to be a bit lighter, so let's go for that one. I think that's the same. Sorry, then this is the problem, is that you will then spend lots of time trying to choose which color you favor for your courses. But the you can use that to obviously distinguish between those different ones. And you can also, from here, if you need to, you can use the calendar feed down in the bottom right-hand corner. And that allows you to share your Canvas calendar with something like Google or iCal or Outlook. So if you want to bring your items from Canvas into those other services, you can. Though, just to be clear, it is a one-way street. It's only going to publish and share items into your calendar, into Outlook, for example. You can't create items in Outlook and have them come back into Canvas. Not at the moment, anyway. And one of the other options available is that you can actually create, if you go to a new event, you also have the appointment group, and that's a way of creating a block of time for your students to sign up to. It's something you can, again, there's guides for everything that we were talking about today, and also a lot of the things that we aren't able to go into just because of the time that we'll have. But you can also use, as I say, if you've got students that you want to, if you want them to sign up to something, maybe a one-to-one meeting or something like that, you can create a time slot that they can choose and as I say, kind of block out in their own calendar as well. So again, if you guys are happy with the calendar, there's normally a couple of things I would have people do at this stage. So maybe add an event or an assignment. But if you guys have got any questions, or if you're just happy to move on, just say. And
just one question: How do the changes I made as a teacher appear for the students? Do they have any notifications or reminder, or how do the changes I made appear for students?
Well, if you've created an event, for example, and the course is published, the students will receive a notification by default. Obviously, if they have disabled their notifications for something like an event, they won't receive that. But you can actually use one of the tools that we have in Canvas called the Student View to see how the course appears from the student's perspective.
Okay.
So from here, these assignments, for example, they wouldn't be visible anyway because they haven't been published. But I'll be going into the Student View before the end of today's session as well, so you can see how that works as well. Cool. Okay. Well, in that case, I'm going to go into one of my courses and actually start working with this. But just on my way there, just want to show you this courses menu on the left-hand side, because we've seen on the dashboard that when you log into Canvas, you can have quite a few items. If you're a teacher and you have lots of different courses, I might find that a bit kind of overwhelming or a bit much. So while I don't want to actually remove myself from any of these courses, I can favorite some of these. So on my all courses, maybe, because I don't really need to look at things like past enrollments. Those are courses that have been concluded or may have been ended. And maybe I'm just going to focus on these photography ones. So I don't want to actually hide or remove myself from any of these other courses. But if I use this star option, it means that those will always be available on the courses menu. So on the left now, I just have my photography ones. And if I go to my dashboard, it's only showing those photography courses as well. So it's a nice way just to kind of minimize everything, but you'll notice that over on the right-hand side, you still have the reminders for the other courses that you might be working on. So it's not going to change your relationship with the course. It will just change what's showing on your front page. So I'm going to go into my Photography 101 course. This is a partially made course, so you can get some ideas as to how Canvas will look when you create things and configure things. But I'm going to create a few things from scratch as well, because we'd like to make sure that you're aware of how these tools work. So again, navigation on the left-hand side, we have quite a lot of areas in a course that you can configure as a teacher. Not all of these are going to be visible to students because you can choose which items are available to students to access. So I mentioned earlier about the files, and at the moment, this files menu is available to students, so they could jump into that. But I'll show you before the end of today's session how you can hide items from students so they only see what they really need to see. But the first place that they start is the home page, and indeed as a teacher you will as well. And you can choose what home page is displayed using, again, very straightforward language. You can choose the home page over here on the right hand side. We have a couple of different options here. So the first one is the activity stream, which will show to students and to anyone accessing this page updates about things like new assignments, new discussion topics, new files being uploaded, really any changes to things that are happening on the course. You can set a front page, which is I want to say a read-only page. It makes it sound a little bit more static because it's only a page that will be updated when you choose to update it. So that's useful because you can obviously design your own page. If I update this to one that's been built already, you can see I've got some images, some text. That's fine, it's good. But we do also have some other options. And if I go to the home page, we'll be looking at the course modules in a little bit, but that's the kind of the main way of structuring these sorts of items or structuring your course. can have a list of assignments, or we can use the syllabus option. Now the syllabus is, again, another one that I like to show off because it's a bit of it's a combination of things. If I switch over to the syllabus, at the moment it's empty. I haven't actually got any text in here, but you'll notice that beneath this text, or where it says edit, we have a course summary. Now the course summary is going to be every item that appears on the calendar for students. Don't forget, as a teacher, you can see everything in a course. So you can go everywhere and you can see everything, even if things haven't been published. So I've got a couple of field trips, my assignment here. These are all things that my students will be able to see. But the course summary will always show the individual student assignments and events that are coming up on their calendar. So they won't see things that are necessarily in the past or have been completed, but they'll be able to be reminded about things that they're meant to be working on the homepage of the course. So that's one of the reasons that the syllabus is quite a nice place a nice way of combining text and an update. If I go to edit the syllabus, I can change that text using the rich content editor, and I'm going to cheat a little bit here and actually copy and paste. There's all the best prepared training sessions, so I'll just copy that in. Even up the text here. Maybe just make it paragraph. And just that. Now I'll come back to the pages just so you can see the way that the rich content editor works in a bit more detail, but I just wanted to update the syllabus. And so now when my students log in here or access the homepage, they'll get the text that I can update and set out, but I can also have Canvas automatically show them the things that they're going to be working on. So this will change as new items are added. It's a little bit more dynamic, the syllabus. So it's a good way of combining regular material, so you could include pictures, links, whatever you want to, introducing the course, and then have your items beneath updating every time you add new material to the course. So the syllabus, as I say, is one of the ways of setting out the landing page or the starting point for the course. But the main tool that we recommend people use when they're starting out with a new course in Canvas are modules. Now, modules in Canvas can be really anything that you would naturally divide up in your teaching. So if you have a course or a program that your students are being taught on, you might divide things into weeks, or you may look at simple topics. It can be really anything that naturally organizes or divides up that kind of folder structure that you might want to have. If you think of your course in a filing cabinet, you're going to be using some sort of folders to keep things separate, and you want to be able to present items to students in the right order. And folders are a natural way of being able to do that in Canvas. So you can see here I have a couple of different modules already. These are the items that I've added to it. But I'm going to create a new module, and I can do that by adding a module up here, because the control that these allow you to have means that you can choose when students can access material, when they unlock, and you can also make sure that they can't go into things unless they've actually completed certain tasks. And we spend a bit more time with that in the second fundamental session, though. But just to introduce them, so if I want to go for my Welcome to Photography, it's one title I've used before. And I can create this so that it's locked until a certain date. And that does what it sounds like. It means that students can't actually get into this module until, let's say, Monday. And conveniently, if I now add the module, It's not published yet because we can see it's just down the bottom here, and it has this grey cloud saying it will unlock on the 24th of April. Now I'm going to change the order of this because I want this to be my introductory module. So I can drag it using these handles, and I can actually change the order of the modules, and this will change the order that people access things as well, if I choose to control when people are going into things. Now, this Welcome to Photography module is completely empty at the moment. It doesn't really have anything, and that's fine because it's unpublished, which we can see via that grey cloud there. So I'm going to start adding some items to it, and this is really building up the course in a quick, easy way, though we aren't looking at the details of how these are going to be built yet. We're just going to be kind of bringing in the placeholders and structuring what we're going to have in our first module. Now, before I do go on any further, do you guys have a normal, a standard way of organizing your courses? Are they organized by week, by topic, by theme, book titles? What do you normally use?
By
lections.
by weeks.
By weeks, yeah.
Okay, so you could just
to do it another way.
Okay, well, pretty much whatever way you take it, whether it is by weeks or it is by topics, the modules are a nice way of making it clear to the student what they're working on, whatever it may be.
Yeah, we have not decided yet how we will do it. We will see what kind of options Canvas will
well, I don't know if it will help you make it, if it will help make your decision, because to be fair, the options are going to be there no matter what. You could go either way, really. It's about the title of the module is, as long as it's clear to students what they're working on, the tools inside of it are going to be, they're relevant if they're talking, if you're working on themes, or if you're working by weeks, if you want it to be very controlled based on the timing, or if you want to control access based on progress and achievement. So modules are definitely worth having. There we go. Well, I could, let's say, I'm going to go crazy here and edit the details of this and change it to week 1. Look at that, it's a bit of both, a topic and a week number. So I'm going to now add to this, and by adding something to a module, it's bringing material into the to present to the student. These items that I add, so whether it's an assignment, a quiz, a file, a content page, discussion, text header, any of these, apart from these last few options, I should say, so things like text header, external URL, and external tool, everything above that, like the discussion and content page, those are things that you can create elsewhere in Canvas. They form part of the course, but you're using the modules to present them to the student in the order that you want. So for example, my content page could be introducing photography, or I could create a new page from scratch, which I would actually recommend that you guys do. So let's just update that to introductions. And I can actually indent this. So let's bring that down a level so my students can see, distinguish between the things that they're going to be reading and maybe the things that they're going to be interacting with. And I use that plus button next to the name across the top of this module to add further things to it. So maybe I'm going to bring in a file. Now I uploaded my photography syllabus earlier, so I'm going to grab that one. But I could also just as easily choose a new file and upload it on the fly. Add that. There we go. You can see with my it's hidden. And my students will be able to see it though, because I've got the link in there. I've included it in my module. Yeah. And keep on adding. So maybe I'll set a quick assignment. Maybe their essay for week 1. Or I could create a new one from here, again, just adding a title. But I'm going to bring in that one that I added from my calendar. and then a quiz. So let's go for a knowledge check. An item. And maybe a discussion. Introduce yourself. Now, it's still not quite how I'd like it because I want a bit more, I want it to be clearer to the students what they're going to work on. So I'm going to keep on adding to this. I'm going to use a text header just to, let's go for activities. And if I choose not to indent this and add that, that's not an item from elsewhere in Canvas. It's just something that's visible at the module level. So the activities might be my essay, knowledge check, and introduce yourself. Actually, let's edit this one. I'm going to edit my introductions one, change it to be a reading list. And then I can also add another text header. So that's material. So you can use text headers really just to kind of organize and make clear where a student, maybe a topic inside of a module. And there we go. So there's only a few items in there, but it's starting to look a little bit more organized, a little bit more prepared for my students. And I might actually want to adjust these. So you've got this cog on the right-hand side that allows you to adjust the indent. You can remove an item from the module, edit it. You can also share to the Commons, which is the kind of online space that you can access to share material from one course to another, or if you bring material in from other institutions if they've chosen to share things. So maybe a document can be shared through that, and you can bring those into your own courses. But you can, as I say, just drag and drop items, and then when you've got your module built, you can actually move it entirely. So all of those items can be shuffled around depending on where you want them to appear inside of the course. Now, at the moment, this module is still unpublished, so students can't actually see it. Even if I were to update this to be published, because the top level, the module itself, is not visible, students won't be able to see any of this. But I could, so even if I, let's say, published my essay, my knowledge check, or introduce myself, introduce yourself even, they wouldn't be able to access those items unless there is a menu over here that they can get to. So for example, things like discussions, if they can get to the discussions option, or if they could get to the files section, they would need to make sure that the items that you include in there, so they may be able to see things in files, for example, if you've got that visible to them. But they won't be able to then access it if it's part of a module that is restricted. So you can, the thing with locking a module, so for example, under this first one, the student will be able to see this module and they'll be able to see the title of the items, but they won't be able to click on any of them. So one thing to consider is actually minimizing the options on the left-hand side, because some of these, maybe students don't need to see them. Modules is obviously the one that they will need to access. And they won't be going into things like, if you wanted them to access all of the quizzes or the assignments or the pages, that sort of thing can overwhelm a student. It's like giving them the keys to the filing cabinet and just saying, go and look for your stuff in the course. You may just just by using the modules, you can structure and present the material that you want them to see at the right time. So, just thinking, if you guys wanted to have a go creating some modules, or if you've got any questions about adding modules to your courses, have a play around with them, or maybe add some items. Or again, if you're happy to move on, we can do.
Yeah, just move on. Yeah.
Move on.
Yeah.
So, with your modules in place, if you've got your kind of the shell of your material, this is where we can start actually going in and updating some items. Now, for every category of item, so for example, an assignment, a quiz, and a discussion, you'll notice we've got these menus on the left here. Those items that are grayed out are hidden to students, but we can still get to them as a teacher. So just remember that again, if you're the teacher, you can go anywhere in your course. I'm going to go to the pages option, just so you can see again how you would access or update things from here. And this is the front page. Now, a front page is set as the kind of the default page that is seen here. But if I go to view all pages, I can see I've got my introducing photography, and then I've got my reading list. So the changes that I make here, I'm clicking on the title, which is currently empty of this page, unsurprisingly. The changes I make here will be reflected in the page that I've got in my module. So this is another way to get to the pages, although I can just as easily click on the title in the modules. But if you're maybe working through a certain area of your, if you want to update all of the assignments or all of the pages, you may want to access it through here. One thing that's quite common in Canvas is that you can normally do the same thing. Ooh, I think they really want to talk to you. There's normally more than one way to do the same thing in Canvas. There's normally at least 2 or 3. So it just depends on how you want to access things. But I'm going to edit the details of this page because at the moment there's a very disappointing amount in it. It's pretty empty. So this reading list at the moment has just got a title. And what we're looking at now is the rich content editor. I jumped in here briefly when we were looking at the syllabus, but I will be using the rich content editor pretty much whenever I'm creating material in Canvas. The tools and the formatting options that you have here are pretty standard in terms of word processing and other kind of creation tools, but we're going to use them to make it relevant to the course content and the items inside of Canvas. So I could, actually I'm going to grab some, see if I've got anything. I think, where's my, I might just grab a bit of example text. Let's go to technical considerations. This is just, again, some text that I'm going to bring in. And you'll notice that things like URLs, if you have HTML, they will persist. But you can also create your own. So if I wanted to, for example, add to it, maybe include highlight text, I can use this option on the right-hand side to link to other areas of the course. So if I wanted to go to another page or another, maybe another module, I could actually direct that link. Let's go to this assignments actually, maybe for the composition project, for example. And you can also insert your own links. So if I have a link to a website outside of Canvas, I can link to URL. And I could include maybe something I've used before, but the external website, and then insert that. And again, those links will now be visible and clickable when the student accesses. So it's a pretty, as I say, pretty standard text and content editor. But you've got more than just text as available, of course. So you can embed things like images. So if we wanted to search for an image, I can bring something in from an external website, which is fine. Obviously, you need to make sure that your you're allowed to use that website or that image, and I'll leave the legal stuff to you guys. But the other consideration when using an external website is that it's still working, because if a URL changes, then obviously the image can break. The alternative would be to embed an image from Canvas itself. So if you've got something in your course, I might have some images, such as a panda that I happen to have here, and I could bring that in. So if I wanted to grab a Canvas panda, I can then also adjust the size, so maybe reduce that down to be a little smaller, and update that. And we have our Canvas panda. Awesome. Canvas likes pandas. I'm not sure if you've picked up on this from the website and some of our kind of branding and marketing. So Canvas pandas are a thing. It's not just me being strange, I assure you. The other options for bringing in images is the use of Flickr. So you can bring in the things from the Creative Commons. So these are things without a licensing associated with them. So for example, if I search for a panda, I'll get some familiar pictures, some cute looking black and white bears. I could bring that, resize it. So you'll notice that when the dimensions are adjusted, it will automatically keep the same aspect ratio. So it means that you don't get distorted images when you're embedding them this way. If I update that one, there we go. That was pretty cute, actually. Now, when you click on an image, you'll notice that it highlights it with that shading, and you can use these handles in the corner to resize and adjust them. Maybe I want to actually make this bigger. And you can use things like tables if you want to actually organize these images kind of on screen. And something else that you can use if you're thinking about using images, if you have, for example, icons, or if you wanted to include links, you can use that same link option when you're highlighting an image. So maybe you're creating a menu page or on the syllabus, and you want to link to each module or each area of the course. So one way to do that would be to highlight the image and then just click on week 1 here underneath the modules list, and that picture will now, if clicked on, take you to that module as the student. So a useful way of, again, just kind of designing and thinking about designing your pages. Now, there's quite a lot of options available within this rich content editor, because some external tools have been added by my administrator here. Now, you guys will be able to add these to your course yourselves as well. But some of these will be available if you've added them already. So things like if I wanted to search for items on YouTube, I can embed a video. So for example, searching in YouTube, 1 second, okay. And one of the videos we have called Cool Things You Can Do with Canvas can be embedded here. Let's go for a small one. Now, when you bring items in like this, such as a YouTube video, or if you embed something in the rich content editor, sometimes it will show in this gray box, and that's okay. It just means that while it's still in the editing mode, you can't adjust, so you can't see the thumbnail. But I can assure you that when we save that, it will be okay. The other media options include things like recording and uploading video if you need to. So if I click on the record button and just give the permissions on the flash, you can see me twice now in this video. Hi again. Hi guys, welcome to the course. I'd like you to take good note of these excellent panda pictures, and looking forward to meeting you in the first class next week. Thanks. So as well as being able to record these items, I could also upload my own video over here. And you do have an option, if you are camera shy, just to record some audio from here. But again, useful way of communicating with your students, personalizing it a little bit. that video is now going to be embedded there. And obviously for a reading list or maybe the first page of a course, this is quite a lot of items, but really I'm obviously just showing you the various tools that can be included here. So after all of that, if you've still got other items that you wanted to include in your page, or again, this is going to be something you'll see in assignments and activities as well. If I wanted to embed a file on a page, over on the right hand side, I can include the file and I could upload a file from here, or I could link to it and it's now going to be visible on that page. And you've also got those images options available over here on the right hand side as well. So remember I was saying about there being more than one way to do the same thing. With the files, because that's now included as a link, you'll notice that it says remove link if I want to, or link to URL. If I click on this with that file link highlighted, I can actually have Canvas automatically show the student or the user on the page the preview for this, so they don't actually have to download the file or look at it. I can use auto open and update the link. Now if I save this, I've got a little bit of text, some links, some panda pictures, a YouTube video, recorded video, and the file that they can download themselves if they want to, or I can have it preview on the page as well. So quite a lot of different tools, as I mentioned. Not the best reading list, but at least a few examples of what you can actually do with the rich content editor. And again, you can add to the list of items on that drop down list for external apps and other tools like YouTube and Wikipedia, or if you've got other apps that you want to bring in, you can add those to the rich content editor as well. Now, again, are you guys happy to, have you been playing around with this, or would you like a couple of minutes?
No.
You know.
I think we're ready just to go on.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay. Well, that's good to know. I'm just going to leave that there in case anyone does watch the video back and wants to take a minute or two just to look at some of these options. But the rich content editor is something you'll find in lots of areas of Canvas. So things like assignments, things like the calendar, discussions, the syllabus, really all across the board. The one other trick it has up its sleeve, if I go back into it, something to be aware of, and you'll see a moment of it there as it loads into the page. You can see that there is an HTML editor up here. So if you've been looking at all of this and just thinking, yeah, that's great, I build web pages for breakfast. If you want to actually get a bit more sophisticated, you can turn it over to the HTML mode, and at that point you can actually configure all of the kind of formatting and links and embedded material through the HTML as well. So you've got a little bit more flexibility if you need to. You can actually get down into some of the more detailed configuration of that content. Okay then, well, I've got a few more areas just to cover before we finish for this session. So I'm going to go to the settings on my course, and from here I want to actually, there's quite a few options that a teacher can review naturally, but I just want to kind of introduce some of the key features. The navigation options in this middle tab, this changes the items that are available on the left hand side. So I mentioned about kind of reducing the amount of items that students have to kind of choose from, and I just want to make it as easy for them as possible. So I can actually hide things like the syllabus, because although even if I'm using it, I don't need to have it as a menu item on the left hand side. I could just have it as a home page, but it gives you the option of having a different home page by maybe using your own page or your regular page, and having the syllabus available as well as a separate item. hide pretty much everything from my students, because maybe I don't want them to do anything other than the things that I'm showing them in the modules. So I go to my discussions. I'll leave the announcements option. That's a way of obviously kind of letting a class or a course know about something happening, and you can have a discussion following those. So an announcement by default will allow students to contribute and comment to it, although you can turn that off. So now that I've hidden a number of these items on the left, the thing that I must always remember to do when you're in the navigation screen is actually save it. This is down at the bottom here. And once I save it, on the left-hand side, pretty much everything will suddenly go grey. Now, if something's greyed out, it just means that students can't get to it or can't see it. The important thing to understand as well, though, is that if you've got an item that, for example, doesn't have any material in it, so maybe I create a, let's see, I'll just think if I've got any options here. Pretty much all of these have material in them. So things like even the announcements, if I go to that, there should be some older items. There we go. So the darkroom closure is visible. But if I delete that particular item, okay, the announcements are still showing there as a list of, or as an item for students. I think that's possibly because they can create their own on this particular course. But if I have one of these options available, so something like discussions, and I choose to hide it, if I choose to make it available to students, but there are no items in that particular area of Canvas, then Canvas will automatically hide it because there's nothing for students to see. When the moment that something like a discussion is added to the course or is added and made visible to students, they will be able to see it. Now, the other options within the settings of the course, the navigation, as I say, it's important to consider how you're going to present your material to students. But you can also change the apps that are available and things like the rich content editor. Now, hopefully you'll remember from your administration training, if you've added apps to your institution or to the whole of Canvas, these can be integrations and can allow Canvas to work with other services. So we saw some of those options that have been installed, things like YouTube and Wikipedia. If I go to the installed list, I've already got quite a lot of items on here already that have been added to my course. And if I go to the app configurations option, I can see I've had quite a few installed by my administrator. So I won't be able to add or remove any of those items. But something like Wikipedia, if I delete that one, I'll just remove it because it's a free one. And I'll show you how you can add those back. If I go back to the App Center and go to all. As I say, the apps are other services outside of Canvas. So they're not things that we support directly. These are things that may require a service, maybe associated with a cost from those other providers. But they do give you some extra kind of features and tools. Some of them, however, are completely free. And they will add to what you can do in Canvas. So if you want to have a shortcut to, for example, searching Wikipedia, you could include that in your course. Now, by clicking on this one and adding it, I can see that's going to actually not ask me for any more information. It's just going to be part of the course, and it's now installed. If I go to the app configurations, I can see where that will appear. If I go down to the item and then go to that cog and look at placements, it's going to be available to my students when they're handing in their assignments, but it's crucially the main tool that we, or main area that we use. These are the rich content editor, but also as a link selection as well. So it'll appear in a couple of different places, and each app or LTI that you add to Canvas does vary in terms of what you can, or where it will appear. Some of these will, as I say, have a cost associated with them that maybe you may want to pay for, or they may just need a what we refer to as a shared secret and a consumer key. These are kind of like codes that allow you to include that service in Canvas. Now, teachers can add these to their courses if you've, again, given them the option to.